putting the spotlight on local businesses in the capital city. This is 402 Business Insider with Travis Filing and Gary Tharnish on 1499.3 KLIN.
Good morning, Lincoln. Travis Filing with Transformation Marketing. Gary Tharnish with Home Design Real Estate Group. How you doing today, Gary?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Great day.
Yeah,
Woke up
it's a great
breathing
day.
with a smile on my face. And I said, it's going to be a great day 4 times because I wasn't really sure.
And with us today is John Barry from the Barry Law Group. How you doing?
Great. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. We appreciate it. This is kind of a really special one for me. I wanted to have you in because this is the show right before Veterans Day, because Veterans Day is so important for me because my dad, Vietnam veteran, your dad, a Vietnam veteran, and I can't thank our veterans enough for their service, for their sacrifice. And I thought you're just such the perfect guy to come in because you do so much for veterans. And I really appreciate it. So my dad, oddly enough, November 8th, my dad passed away a year ago today. And I was kind of going through my dad was in Vietnam from 64 to 70. So he was there for a while.
Jeez, yeah.
Yeah. And so I've been kind of over the year going back to the house and picking up. I had tons of books because my dad never talked about being in Vietnam. And so any book that I could get my hands on, I would buy it. I would read it just to try and understand who this guy is and what he went through. And, why is he so angry? Right. Yeah. And one of the books I pulled out, this is about 2 months ago, was Those Gallant Men. And I'm like, by John Barry. I'm like, I know a John Barry. Well, I know 2 John Barrys. And it was your dad's book. And I'm like, oh, how crazy is that? This book has been sitting on my shelf since I was 13. So this is back late 80s. And just thought, wow, that was your dad wrote that book. And so I'm actually reading through it again. It was actually a really cool book. But yeah,
I think it's actually the first one he published. He's since published at least 3 more. One of them was about the Carol Fugate and the Charles Starkweather case. And then the other 2 are about his service in the military, as well as some poetry and other things.
Oh, wow. I'll have to start looking those up because he did a really good job. And it was a really interesting book, I remember.
So I'm curious, did your father talk to you guys about the experience in Vietnam?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because I served in Iraq. There's
Sure.
Obviously we've talked about the differences in generational differences in the way that the military has changed. And I have a brother who's served in the Navy and one who served in the Air Force. So we generally did talk about it. It was, and we have someone going back to the Revolutionary War in the Barry family or the Stevens family who has served in the United States military. So
seriously, I love it.
That's cool.
Wow.
So we tell those stories.
It's in the blood.
Yeah, and it's so important that these stories get out and get told.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a fascinating book. So if you guys listening get a chance, go pick it up. I'm sure they're still out there. I don't know. Is it still in publication or?
I think you still get it on Amazon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amazon. You can get almost
You can
anything
get
on Amazon.
anything
They'll
online.
print a copy if you want it, probably. But yeah.
And what's funny too is, so I worked at KLIN when your dad had a show here in this very studio. And if you were to, my office is literally was right above where we're sitting now. And he was on, I think 10 to noon or 9 to 11 or something like that. And sometimes he had the craziest show on the radio. I remember one time we were sitting in my office, and then you just kind of heard the walls were kind of vibrating. You could hear noise, but you couldn't quite tell what was going on. And then we had, speakers with little volume knobs in the wall. I don't know if they still have it up there, but there was singing. And I came downstairs, and it was this studio that we're in now. And he had 2 or 3 people from the symphony. He had an opera singer. He had 15 people in this tiny little studio. It's what is this guy doing? This is crazy. I kind of miss that show once in a while.
Yeah, I used to listen to it all the time.
Yeah. Good show. Good guy. Good people. So let's talk about you, though. Let's talk about the Barry Law Firm. And you said you served in Iraq. You were in the Army. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I had a great experience. I started off as an infantry officer, got airborne and Ranger qualified, and then I was in Bosnia in 1999, right? We started bombing Kosovo, and it looked like things were going to heat up, and they didn't. So I got out and went to law school, but I stayed in the National Guard to help pay for law school. And then I deployed in 2005 to Iraq as a company commander. And then I ended up staying in and finished my last job in the Nebraska National Guard as the battalion commander of the Officer and Warrant Officer Candidate School. So I had a great time, great experience, got to do a lot of fun things, and probably one of the best decisions I ever made.
Oh, that's cool.
So was law always part of the plan, becoming a lawyer?
It was. I mean, I think, I had a paper route since I was 10. I was always very entrepreneurial, which kind of clashed with law back when the way my father's practice was run. So, I'm fortunate now that I get to do both, but the military was really a break between college or that was the intent. This is going to be a short break between college and law school. I never thought that I would do 20 years combined active and reserve service.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. And most people, I mean, that's not a typical college break. Usually someone goes to France to find themselves for a year or something like that. I've never heard of somebody go, I think I'm going to go into the military, take a little break.
Yeah, I think, if you got to go find yourself, you got to find purpose. And so if you're going to go in the military, you already have purpose. And I think that's, one of the great things that growing up in my family, is that, military service was celebrated.
Mm-hmm. And it should be. And it absolutely should be. I've always said, I think people should be, you should have to go serve at least 1 year in the military.
Or do something for your community. Do something bigger than something for yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. You wouldn't want me in the military. You do not want me holding a gun. I'm a klutz. I always say I'd be in the emergency room going, no, I shot myself in the knee. I was looking for the safety, and the elbow is when I found it. But I agree. I think it's awesome. Definitely doing something for your community. I mean, I have my entire life, and it makes a huge difference. And I remember times people were like, why do you volunteer all the time? And I'm like, I don't really think about it. I mean, I figured this is where I live. I want this city to be better, and I want people that, especially people that are underserved or socio and economically disenfranchised, do what you can to help your community. It may not be serving in the military, but there's 1,000 other ways to serve.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So now the Berry Law Firm. So was your dad drafted? Did he volunteer?
He volunteered. He also started off as an infantry officer, then volunteered to go back as a JAG lawyer, I believe, to take his brother's place.
Okay.
His brother was in I believe, getting his MBA at the time. And my dad said, well, I'll step in and I'll go there. And my dad also saw what was going on in Vietnam and felt that they needed good lawyers there. And he was, someone needed to protect the soldiers. And that's exactly what he did when he defended the commander of the 5th Special Forces in Vietnam and had to subpoena sitting President Richard Nixon in order to get the case dismissed.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Isn't that incredible?
Is that in the
right?
book?
Yeah.
I'm gonna read the book. You got to give me that. Are you done with the book yet?
As soon as I'm done reading it again.
Yeah. We talked about that about a month ago, and I'm like, finish that book.
And I should probably run over and have your dad ink it for me.
Yeah. He'd love that.
Yeah. So when 2001 hit, 9/11, were you in school at the time then?
I was a second-year law student, and I was a company commander in the Nebraska National Guard, or maybe I wasn't a commander of that yet, but I knew that I'd been selected for command, and so I knew I was going to be commanding a company. And then shortly thereafter, I'm deploying with that company to Iraq.
Right. Yeah. I wondered, my brother-in-law is a Marine. He retired before 2001. I made the mistake one time of saying he was a Marine. You're always a Marine. I learned that lesson really quick. Great guy, though. I remember after 2001, he wanted to go re-enlist. Now, he was a financial guy. His last several years were in the commandant's office, and he was basically like the CFO of the Marines. I don't know who would want that job, but anyway, there was a big urge for that. I bet he felt a real pull to just go help. So we all did, in different ways, whatever way we could serve.
Yeah, I think that it was a great opportunity, to bring our country back together. And I think that usually tragedy does that. It aligns people, at that point, we have a common problem that we have to solve. Sure. Maybe you would say a common enemy that we can rally around. And I think that makes a difference, right? When we need to work together, we do work together. And that, I've noticed that so often in business and in life that people don't always come together for the right reasons. Sometimes it takes something tragic to pull people together.
That's very true. And it's like we've talked often in here about asking for help when you need it. And it's a difficult thing. It was always very challenging in my life because my dad was always like, you don't need to ask for help. You just figure it out, dust yourself off and move on and whatever.
Rub some dirt in it.
But asking for help is so important, and I remember in business where I'm like, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to go talk to a lawyer, and you go in and you have to go, okay, I have to share the good, the bad, and the ugly, the everything and ask for help. But that's a tough thing for a lot of people to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's we represent veterans nationwide. appealing VA disability claims. And what a lot of people don't realize is how hard it is for a lot of those veterans to pick up the phone. And I just saw this trash article in the Washington Post saying
surprise.
Yeah, of course. Saying that veterans, were somehow gaming the system. But if you think about how our society is set up, we have workers' compensation courts for people that are injured on the job.
Right.
So whether you're in combat or not, you can get messed up in the military. I mean, I jumped out of airplanes several times, carried sometimes 80, sometimes 100 pounds on my back for several miles. And I only did that for, a fraction of my career, but there are men and women who did that for over 20 years. And they are suffering right now. And it's tough to pick up the phone because guess what? I know the guy who got his leg blown off. Do I think I deserve this? Or I know the guy that has such severe PTSD, he can't work. Do I really deserve this? And then when the VA tells them no, some of them feel like, are they calling me a fraud? And so it's really tough for some veterans to process. I mean, we say, look, this is a large bureaucratic system and you're asking for help and they have a duty to assist you and they want to assist you, but it's kind of like filing your taxes, right? I mean, you got to, you remember you said boxes of receipts. It's like, you have to prove that you have a disability and it was caused by military service. So you have to show a nexus between the disability and the military service. And some veterans, they just didn't submit their doctor's paperwork showing that they had a current disease or disability, or they didn't show it was caused by military service, or there was some other, nuanced legal argument that needs to be made on their behalf. But the point is, it is so tough for them to make that initial call. It's usually the spouse or a family member who says, this is happening, I need help. And so, we love working with veterans, but I would say it is for some of them, it is very tough to call. So when I saw that article come out, I thought, we've done so much work. They think about the PACT Act and all these things that, hey, we understand that Camp Lejeune water, the burn pits and all these things will affect you. Please come forward. And yet there are several veterans that say, no, I'm not going there. And when like I said, and when they get turned down, a lot of see it as like, are they calling me a liar? Are they saying that I don't have this? Are they saying, and we did have one veteran there's a form called a DD-214 when you go to the military. And if it's wrong, you get a DD-215. Anyway, he got a letter back that said from the VA saying, there's no record of you being in Vietnam. And of course, he broke down in tears and said, they're saying I didn't serve in Vietnam. And I'm like, no, they're just saying there's not evidence. Like, let us help you. If we don't find that, can't find that document, we will raid the attic. We'll get letters. We'll get documentation. We will help. We will help you do this. But I think it's so hard for all of us to ask for help, but especially in the veteran community, for years, the mental health stigma, right? Veterans didn't want to get help, especially if they're still in the military, because if people thought you had PTSD, you might not get promoted. Your security clearance might get revoked, right? There's all these thoughts about all these bad things that could happen.
Sure.
And the military has really done a great job now of saying, hey, it's okay to get help. In fact, we encourage you to talk to people. But the stigma was there's something wrong with you. And the fear was if I talk to somebody about my problems, I'm going to get kicked out of the military or I'm going to get passed over for promotion.
Well, and it's that stigma, I mean, in real estate, obviously fair housing laws, right? And people sometimes don't realize they're being discriminated against. And even if they are, they don't know what avenues they have, to make themselves whole with whatever happened to them. And it's the same in the military. I helped a gentleman get into a house 3 years ago with a VA loan. And he had been in the service for 25 years. And he had been deployed 3 times and he had been injured in deployment, but it wasn't, Ken said to me, I know I can say this, he's my second cousin, but his thing was exactly what you said earlier, where it's like, well, he wasn't injured as bad as the guy next to him. And it's like, you deserve this. You deserve moving forward. Pete, all the different things that he's subjected to are just so challenging. I could see exactly what you said, where he was just like, I'm not going to ask for help. Like, I don't feel I deserve it. And it's like, dude, your back is roached. I mean, trust me, when you've seen 64 summers like me, you're going to want your back in really good shape. I can just tell you that right now. Any of you young guys out there.
Well, and the misconception is if I get it, I'm depriving somebody else of getting it. And that's not true. That's not the way government budgets work. Right. The way the government, and the more veterans that ask for benefits, the more that's going to be in that budget. But I got to tell you, the VA has done a great job. And then that's, but it's not, when you get to a large system like that, it's difficult to navigate. And so some of the issues are, the service connection date, maybe they should have been paid 10 years ago, right? So they want to go back and say, well, why didn't I get my benefits 10 years ago? Or in the alternative, they may not get the right rating, right? So the rating percentage is from 0 to 100%. So there are different things that we have to look at. And sometimes they say, well, your knee isn't service connected. They say, well, I jumped out of an airplane 50 times. How's this? So there's just things that we have to look at. But the VA does a good job of taking care of our veterans. But we could always do better. But we all need help. And I think at any time you need help, you got to ask.
This segment is brought to us by Western National Bank, the t-shirt and jeans guys. Just love those guys. They're doing some work for me right now. Red Rhino Roofing and Mendoza Family Insurance. We love our sponsors. We appreciate it. So, John, one thing that you guys are starting to help my son-in-law, he was in actually, they were up in Minnesota, and he was in a car accident, right, while on the job. And so he had a disability, and the VA, it was almost like automatic denial. Rejection. Yeah. Nope. No disability. Oh, wait a minute. This kid's been through surgeries. And this happened on the job while he was serving. It seems like, and this I want to ask is, it seems like the VA is almost like that rubber stamp of no until you force their hand to recognize that something is wrong, because there's so many people who just don't want to talk to the VA, don't want to work with the VA. Is that accurate?
No, I don't think it's accurate. And you have to remember that there are different regional offices throughout our country.
Sure.
And some perform differently. But the reality is that they have a standard they have to meet to grant claims. And so if the evidence isn't there, they don't grant it. And if there's not a current disability or disease, they're not going to grant it. And so they have to follow their protocol. And so they're following their rules. But once again, it's set up so that advocacy is necessary. It shouldn't have to be necessary. But if someone is injured and it's not due to some type of willful misconduct that happens while they're on active duty, because when you're on active duty, as I learned, they own you 24/7. Then it shouldn't be that difficult, but sometimes it is. And we've seen that, motorcycle accidents and things like that, where these things happen frequently. To active duty soldiers, and then it's an issue of getting service connected and getting all that taken care of. But yes, you are on duty 24/7. You want to find out? Go ahead and get arrested. Find out what happens. So your chain of command knows that.
I'll do that. I'm good at that part.
I'm just saying, in the military, but that's part of service. And it's unfortunate, but that is part of understanding the legal standard and being able to develop a case and put the facts together. And that's why I think a lot of veterans get denied. It's not necessarily that somebody screwed up. Now, sometimes that happens, but sometimes it's just the fact that there's another piece of this that's missing, and we just need to put the puzzle together.
Right. All the columns weren't filled out like they needed to be in order to get disability or whatever it is that you need.
Or that's where people the wrong form. You use the wrong form. I'm like, well, wait a minute. They came.
Imagine that.
Who gave them the form?
Imagine that. Yeah. It's like calling the IRS with a question.
Oh yeah.
They'll never answer anything. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's where they need an advocate, and that's what you do. And people, I just think it's sad that a veteran doesn't get what they deserve because they've been told no once, and they're just feeling like, I'm not going to fight it. I'm not going to fight the government. I'm not going to go down the hassle. And like you said, it might have just been the wrong form. It could be so simple.
But that's human nature. And I hate to say, but in our personal injury practice here in Nebraska and Iowa, it is the same, where someone will get injured. They'll write to the company and say, hey, I was injured. They'll get denied. And then they get a lawyer in the process. And I think the great thing about the how we help our veterans is we have county veteran service officers, right, throughout the state. And we have these great service organizations, right, like the American Legion.
Yeah, definitely.
And so there are a lot of great individuals out there who will help veterans file claims. And at Barry Law, we do is we appeal those claims. So a lot of times, if the filing is done correctly, the claim gets granted, and there are people to help veterans file those claims. But if it gets denied, then that's where we jump in and we scrutinize it, and we start putting together a legal strategy and build up that case to say, okay, what's missing, and let's build this up, and let's do what we can to win for our veterans. Because at the end of the day, right, if there's one check I don't mind writing, paying taxes, it's to take care of our veterans, those who are protecting our rights, especially lawyers. I know we got somebody that's going to be a lawyer here. Your right to practice law is defended by a veteran who raised a hand to support and defend the Constitution. And the day you become a lawyer, you will take an oath, probably in the state capitol here, to a very similar oath to protect the Constitution. And so I would just say that it's a very important thing that our military service members do, and we need to honor their service, because when they get out, their stories are told. And look at right now, we have recruitment problems and some other issues. Like, that has to be a positive story, not a negative one. So let's make sure that when our veterans come back home, we take care of them.
Yeah, and we do such a better job of it now, but we still have a long ways to go, because I remember my dad later in his years did talk to me about coming back from Vietnam. It was not a good experience. He didn't go over there for, over 5 years because it was fun. He was there because they were treated so poorly when they got back here that he was almost felt like an outcast. So we have come a long way in supporting our veterans, but I still think we have a long way to go.
Oh, certainly.
I get frustrated, and I'm trying to think of how to word this, because when I see like Wounded Warrior, for example, which is an outstanding charity helping veterans, it drives me nuts that they even exist, that they have to exist, because they shouldn't have to exist. We should just take care of our veterans who sacrificed and who stood up for us and fought for us without having to have some third party stand in and go, we need to take care of these people. It should be just a given.
Well, and if you're a veteran out there right now listening, it's okay to ask for help.
Yes.
That's just a big thing. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you wrong. If another soldier you think is more injured than you and you're non-deserving, that is not true.
Yeah, that's not part of the equation.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, that's not part of the calculus. Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yep. And this segment is 5 takeaways. So this is sponsored by the Nebraska Farmers Network, and I'll tell you a little bit more about them in a minute. But 5 takeaways. Typically what we do is we share 5 things to business owners and wannabe business owners about something that they can take back and apply to their business. But today, our 5 takeaways, we're going to talk to veterans directly. So we want to give them 5 pieces of advice, 5 things that will make them want to reach out either to the VA or to you. Just give them some advice on, if they need help, what can we do to help them?
Start at the top. Some of the most successful businesses in the country are run by veterans. So I see the future of America is in the hands of our military veterans. These are people who have been trained to lead. They come with batteries included. So first of all, we love to hire veterans, but when you start at the top, I look at hire veterans, right? If you want to solve the problem, hire more veterans. They come with real leadership skills, and they know what failure means, but they also know what it means to have a mission. So you get a much more mature, developed leader when you hire veterans.
Yeah.
I have a podcast and a book called Veteran Led, where I talk about this exact issue. We had a lot of veterans where we would get them hundreds of $1,000s in back pay award. The VA owed them. They'd get disability money. And you know what? It didn't solve the suicide problem. And the reason why, they didn't have a team and they didn't have a mission. And so I started talking to some of my more successful veterans that we helped at Berry Law, and they had started businesses or started nonprofits, and they were like, well, we found the team and the mission, and I found these stories are everywhere. And so I started telling those stories. And so I wrote a book about what is the Berry Law Leadership Manual called Veteran Led. Then I started a podcast where I interview all these veterans who have had a bigger, better future after military service. Now, but to go to the individual who's just out of service or struggling right now, ask for help. I mean, look to the person to your right and to your left, the people you served with, they want to help you. Right. Your community wants to help, and you got to ask. And sometimes, you have to have the guts to ask for help. And that's okay.
Asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. That's the first thing. Or feeling like you're undeserving because someone else maybe needed it more is also, it's a myth, right? That's something you don't want to happen. Let's back up just a little bit. So I'm on Spotify or Apple Music, and I want to find your podcast. It's called
Veteran Led.
Veteran Led. Yeah. Okay, because that's a great start for veterans right there. I would imagine they can probably hear all sorts of stories.
Yes, right? Yeah. I mean, some amazing. I mean, I General Petraeus is on there.
Nice.
Yeah. But then also some of Donnie O'Malley. From Vet TV. So I mean, the level of and some are just people who are just starting nonprofits, but it's all across different businesses and different nonprofits, but it's really showing veterans a bigger, better future, and then sharing those business lessons, right? Because we're not afraid, as veterans, we're not afraid to talk about failure, right? I failed my first time through Army Ranger School. I had to go back through, and it sucked both times.
Yeah, but, I bet.
But that's what business is like that. You're gonna win, you're gonna lose, and so for a lot of veterans, it's like you already have the leadership ability, but sometimes it's telling you got to take a step back now and learn that basic skill. Go back to school, learn a trade, and then hey, learn how to weld, become a plumber, and then own your own company. But go back to go to law school if you want. but the point is, you have to. Sometimes veterans have to take a step back and develop new base level skills so that then their leadership skills can apply to those skills. So sometimes they won't see the benefit from that military service until 2 or 3 years down the road when they are now supervising and leading people in the civilian world.
Yeah. I love that you hire for the culture, right? So hiring vets, they're going to have a common denominator with the person they're working with when you have a vet That would say a lot, I think, right? Because I don't know what you went through being in service. I kind of get it. I mean, from my brother-in-law talk about it and other people, but I wasn't there, so it does make a difference to have, I think, somebody on the opposite side of the table when you're saying, hey, I've been denied benefits, who's going to go, I get it. I've seen people go through this before. I can help you, is a big thing. And I think sometimes earlier we were talking maybe off air, but I think it's also important for vets to know that maybe tried to get this help themselves, that it may be as easy as you use the wrong form. And someone at the vet's office doesn't necessarily have to tell you use the wrong form. They're filling in the blanks going, oh, gee, you don't qualify. Right. So ask for help, give you a call, give your company a call.
And there's so many people out there to help beyond the VA.
Right. Yeah.
Just to help with the paperwork, I would imagine it's got to be a lot.
Yeah. And I mean, and look, I mean, we thought the problem was solved with getting records digitized. Well, you still lose digitized records. Sometimes it's just getting that evidence out there. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's just asking for help. And sometimes, you know what, the first time you might be told no. Well, most of my life I was told no the first time.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Me too.
Yeah. It's almost like a rubber stamp anymore.
I know, right?
No. Yeah. No is the first step to getting to yes.
But what I like is when the VA says no, and this is what you need. So they have a duty to assist. This is what you need. Okay, this is what you need. But sometimes even, okay, well, what does that mean, right? So that's where we jump in. But yes, I mean, helping veterans is great because at the end of the day, in the military, it was mission first, people always. And I love to help veterans, not just with their VA disability appeals, but also on our team, because they know that sometimes when things get tough and clients are relying on you, your feelings don't matter. Go with the plan. Now that doesn't mean don't get help if you but in the military community, we know how to suck it up and drive on, embrace that suck.
Yes.
And you know what? When someone puts their life in your hand as a lawyer and they expect you to get a result, and they're expecting you to help them get justice. I mean, it's a heavy burden. And in the military, we've all felt that burden of knowing that someone, the future of our sons and daughters and their safety are in our hands. So hiring a veteran is, something that I love to do. And I love to hear their stories. But yeah, when you build a culture around that, it's like, hey, I don't feel good today, but man, I know people are depending on me and I am not going to let them down.
Yeah. Yeah, there are so many benefits that veterans don't know about. I mean, I have Prosperity Mortgage here in town. They will give veteran no origination fee, so you save $1,000 right there if you're a vet.
Wow!
Through the end of this year, I think they'll pay the appraisal fee as well, which is like $1,800. But you don't know what you don't know, So there's a lot of times that people have to ask in order to know that. And I think sometimes I'm just wondering how many people apply for something or a benefit that they deserve, are told no, and then they just go, okay, well, I wasn't deserving of it. So ask for help, which is call, your office. It's
and
one way to do it.
I mean, the VA is also woefully understaffed, just like so many other departments and companies. Like my son-in-law is going through right now. There's some arbitrary date that they have to make a decision by a specific date, and it keeps getting pushed back, and now there's some hard date. And what he was told, and I'm paraphrasing here, what he was told is basically what you're going to see is once you get to the very end, they're just going to blanket rubber stamp everything approved because they don't have time to go through everything that's on their docket right now. So that's something else. So if you get denied, it could be just they don't have the people to process it. That could very well be part of the problem.
Yeah, and of course I can't ever speak to the specifics of any case,
right?
But certainly, I mean, we see patterns and we say, okay, this is a problem. We know this problem is going to persist, and we start looking at, the VA is modernizing and using AI tools and stuff like that. I think the great thing about AI is it can speed things up. The bad thing about AI is when it gets something wrong, it's going to get something wrong a lot.
Yeah,
and so it can be very helpful and then very
harmful.
Yes. And look, but it's like any other tool. Once you start using it, you're probably not going to be using it as efficiently or as effectively. And there's so much we have to learn. I mean, we have AI tools. We've got about 7 IT people on our team, and we're very cautious.
Yeah,
but we're using them where we know they can help, but very cautious in how we use
we did a show about AI and the importance of that. I mean, I know in real estate, like if you end up in front of Secretary of State Evnan and his crew, because you brought before them saying, oh, well, AI did it, doesn't cut it, so you do have to have your eyes on it and know what you're doing. But the amount of research you can do for me, I had somebody calling me and wanted to go, hey, I want to buy a house that was built by Man Construction in somewhere between 85 and 95. What neighborhoods are those in? wow, really?
Right.
And I hung up. I go, well, I'll find out for you. And I hung up and I'm like, how am I? I'm just get into AI. And I'm like, shocking. Within 20 minutes, I have the homes. I was like, I love this.
Yeah.
Called back. I said, really, AI helped me with this. You're not going to think I'm a genius, but I mean, there's a purpose for it. But we're going to see it used everywhere, which is important, but also has to be monitored.
And for the most part, like we always tell people, AI is more artificial than it is intelligence. So you have to use your brain. And a great example of AI is we've all gone to, and you can do this with law questions now too. Doesn't mean you're going to get good advice, but you get a weird pain and you go to WebMD, right? And you start going through the progressions, and then before you know it, you have cancer and are dying. Right. It's exactly it. That's AI.
Right.
So
I remember one day I woke up and I was like, I could not focus on anything. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? And it was getting pretty bad. And I'm like, everything's out of focus and I'm reaching past things that are right here. And so finally I woke up Carol and I said, man, I don't know what's going on. I go, but I think something's major wrong. She's like, well, what's going on? So it was back in the late 90s, we had the big medical book, so she opens up, she goes, okay, tell me again. And she's like, oh my God, you might have a brain tumor. We need to get you in the doctor. I'm like, a brain tumor? Oh my God. I'm thinking the same thing. And then all of a sudden she just pokes me in the one eye and she goes, your lens popped out, idiot. You have a lens somewhere in the house. But WebMD was certain I had brain cancer. So I got to love it. You got to love it.
And I would just say this, we love hiring veterans who work with AI because AI is really just about good delegation. So, prompt engineering, you start talking about how do you give a good prompt? Well, the key is it's just like delegating a task. In the military, we know that we always delegate authority, but not responsibility. And so I would say that, anytime that you've ever served in the military and you told a private to do something and you got something back totally different, that's what AI does. But if you tell them the who, what, when, where, and why, now you never tell them the how because you want them to figure that out, but you tell them the who, what, when, where, and why, and you are specific, you're going to get a better result. And that's the same thing with AI and prompt engineering is you really have to figure out what specifically you want. And then the great thing is when you get what you don't want, you just give it a corrective instruction.
Yeah.
Just like when you tell that private, I said, mop that floor, not that floor. Now I need you to buff it. Right. Right. I mean, you probably remember those days, but yeah, I mean, that's the gist of it. It is, just getting specific and giving good delegation.
Yeah.
Always.
So now back to other things that we can tell veterans, what they can do, to reach out, because you mentioned the suicide rate is through the roof with veterans. Where do they start? I mean, that's something that is a big concern for everybody, is that suicide rate. What can we do to help those veterans there?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the first thing is making the resources available, and the VA has done a great job about making those resources available. Right. But it's getting people to talk, and there's been a lot of great grassroots movements, and there's been some bigger movements like IVMF through Syracuse, the Danello Institute. They have all these programs. They recently acquired Bunker Labs and all these veteran entrepreneurial companies to help veterans start businesses. Or there are all these other vocational programs that help. We're involved with Metro Community College to help veterans, get a degree. And you say, well, don't they have the GI Bill? Yes. But that doesn't always get it done when they get out. Right. They've got a family to feed.
Yeah. Right.
And so it's about figuring out ways that we can convince veterans that there's something for the education piece, right? There is something for you. And I look at all the programs out there. There is always something for a veteran. And I miss out on most of my friends. I'm in a group called CEO Circle. It's put together through IVMF, and it's veterans who run companies of a certain revenue amount. And there's about 75 of us in my class. Jamie Dimon spoke to us. Dan McChrystal spoke to us.
Nice.
And we have a banker and we have a coach or a facilitator, and we meet once a month. And it's a great way to bring that commerce. And they're always telling me, well, did you know about this? Did you know about this benefit? I'm like, no, I had no idea. But we're more in the VA disability space, whereas if someone else was in the the real estate space, they're aware of or education space, they're aware of those emerging benefits. But there's so much out there. You just have to ask.
Well, it's camaraderie too, right? So, I mean, you're in association with other people that have been through what you've been through. I think a lot of times, well, I don't know specific, but I mean, when you're suicidal, I think you're feeling like you're at the end of the rope and you're alone, like you're out in the ocean all by yourself, right? So, and when we're thinking of vets, I'm not a vet, so I don't know, but I mean, I'm assuming or thinking that it might be a lot that you're in the military, you're around a lot of people, your guys, your team, all this time. Now, all of a sudden, you're back home, you're alone, you're feeling lonely. Maybe you haven't got a skill that translates into where you are now and being able to find a job, and that loneliness just builds and builds and builds. Or you saw something that's horrific. That's hard to deal with. And it's hard to talk. I mean, I don't know. I grew up where it was like, you don't complain, you deal with it. I think it's a lot different now just because of all the way we can get our information compared to when I was young. But I mean, I know I was raised that way. I always felt it was almost a form of weakness to ask for help. As a man, it was I need to provide for my family. I need to do, And I think the younger generation's better. It seems like, but I mean, still, and you don't know what you don't know.
It's a weird balance because we're the generation, come on, get tough, Sally, rub some dirt in it. Let's go. I think we need a little bit of that in our society, but there are some things that are beyond your control. There are some things that you do need to ask help for, and knowing the difference between the two, you can just reach out. I mean, there's definitely solutions out there.
Yeah, I think we need to reframe the narrative. I as my dad would say, as a Vietnam veteran, he says, if they talk to the dragons or talk about the dragons during the day, they don't come out at night. Right. And so that's, really addressing it in the light of day.
So true.
But I think also it's, for most of the high performers that I know, they're seeing a performance psychologist or a counselor or somebody to really think about their thinking, right? And to get better and to become more self-aware. And so I don't just see this as an opportunity to deal with mental health issues and suffering, but it's like, because I don't think that solves the problem. I think if you just talk about the problem, I don't know that you solve the problem.
Correct.
Now, I'm not a mental health
I agree with that.
But the most successful people I know have had a lot of trauma in their life, but they're able to say, you know what, but I'm able to focus on these other things because I work through with a counselor, psychologist on the thing, on my future, not my past. And so if I just keep talking about my past, I get stuck in it. But if I can think about that bigger, better future, and that's where my brain lives, that's where my body lives. And I want to go there. And so I think, the mental health, get help. Like, even if you don't need help, everybody needs a coach. Everybody needs someone to help them get better, and someone who can reflect their thoughts back to them and guide them. We all need a guide. The hero with 1,000 faces, right? Joseph Campbell. It's like, every hero has a guide. And so, look, asking someone to help you is no different than asking someone to mentor you. But the stigma of it is, I think is problematic.
That's a great way to look at it. You need a mentor more than anything else.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to look at it.
And no dissing the mental health people that work in that field, but I remember going to a listing appointment and the gentleman did not want me to go in his house. It was very bizarre after a while. And finally I'm like, there's a reason you don't want me to go in the house. What is that? And he goes, well, I've lived here 7 years. I've never had anyone in my house. I said, okay. I said, well, if I'm going to sell it, I need to come in the house, and is there something that worries you about me coming in the house? Well, when the door was open in the front, he was it was one of the grossest things I ever saw, the amount of hoarding. It was just very sad. He needed mental help. And I went right there and I just said, look, I'm just going to tell you right now, no one can sell this house in this way, shape, or form. And honestly, you need help, and there's help out there for you, And he goes, oh, I know. I have someone helping me. And I said, helping you with, and he goes, well, I've been seeing a lady that's helping me with this problem for 12 years, And I go, well, you need to see someone else.
Right.
And I didn't mean to, I did. I just kind of ended up chatting with him. He ended up getting help. I followed through with him for a little bit, but it was kind of that point where you need somebody to lead you out of this, not just talk to you about, oh, you're in it and here's how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Or
kind of what you're saying
buddy.
In a way. It's reforming that narrative and going, where can you be, not where have you been? Not that you can't deny where you've been, but now how does that get you where you want to be?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Well, we got a break coming up here. So that was 5 takeaways brought to us by Nebraska Farmers Network. Nebraska Farmers Network, protecting the future of agriculture in Nebraska by keeping Nebraska farms Nebraska owned. Go check them out. They're doing some really cool work there.
Anyway, this segment is brought to you by James Arthur Vineyards. I still love in March when they paired wine to junk food.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Like
that was so cool.
What type of wine should you drink with potato chips?
Yes.
And then Lincoln Coin and Bullion, great group of people over there, and diverse when it comes to investments for sure. This segment we kind of talk a little bit about the unexpected impact too. And John, we haven't talked a lot. We're addressing veterans, but let's just address you and your company growth for a little bit, right? So when did you join the firm?
I became a lawyer in 2003, but I started working for my dad probably in summer 2000.
Okay. And what was the firm size then? Approximately.
Probably 5 or 6 people, maybe 3, 4 lawyers at the most.
When did you really start to see growth and a lot of scaling? When did that kind of start? How did it start? What was when
we decided to.
Okay.
So
makes sense.
I think when I start off, I think most lawyers, they want to be a great lawyer, right? So I was just focused on the practice of law, and then I was still in the National Guard. So I had this whole leadership part that was a separate part of my life that I really liked on the weekends. But I was, working a ton. And when I retired from the National Guard, I realized like, okay, now I'm gonna have some time. And I had achieved a lot of the professional goals, tried a lot of jury trials, had a lot of great experiences. And I realized like, I want to build that bigger, better future. And what I was really happy with was when I ran the Officer and Warrant Officer Candidate School was building leaders, right? And the way you scale a business is with leaders. So I said, I want to be around more leaders. And so I want to hire them. I want to grow them. And I think that's really what changed everything was I hit a point where I felt like, okay, I'm in my 40s, my professional career, I've done the things I wanted to do. I've achieved all the goals. Like, what is next?
Right.
And so it was, and there was also a client, we represented this young man, and his father learned about our veterans practice. He said, well, you guys are doing a great thing. Like, why aren't you doing more of it? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, we've got, hundreds of clients. And he's like, no, you need to have like thousands. Like, you're doing a great thing here.
He was the nudge.
Yeah, he was a nudge that said like, you really need to think this through.
Yeah.
And think about growth because you're providing a really valuable service.
Yeah. And so when you think about hiring, what do you look for in someone? Do you look for someone that fits your culture more, or you have a specific need of type of law?
I've made a lot of mistakes.
Well, that's how we learn.
That's business.
Yeah. So you're in good company here.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know about David, but I know Travis well enough to know we have also.
I've really got three things.
Okay.
They got to be a cultural fit. They have to have the scar tissue, and they have to be able to do the job now. And so for us, like the right hire for right now is not for 2026, probably for 2027. We're looking for someone who has the skills to get us to the next level. And here's where I screw this up. The first time, like let's say you're a $5 million company, and you hire that director of operations who has run a $5 million company, but you want to go to 50 million. Guess what? That person's not going to get you there.
Yeah.
Conversely, I've done the other thing where I've hired executives from $1 billion companies, 2 AmLaw 100 firms. One was a CIO, one was a COO, and they were already on top of the mountain that we were trying to climb. So we're trying to grow, but they start off at $1 billion companies. They don't have the scars from the climb. So if they don't have the scars, either because they just haven't got there yet, they're not going to fit. And a good friend and coach of mine, his name's Cameron Harold. He wrote this book called The Double Double, and he said, look, the person on your team, the leader that can get the team from 5 million to 10 million, can probably get them from 10 to 20 million. But to go from 20 to 40 million as a business, you're probably going to need someone else because they're not going to be able to grow the skills. And I have found that to be true. And so, yes, you have to top grade, but I always look at it this way. Look, if I am going to lose somebody, I want them to leave. Like, hey, they're a great alumni, and we want to help them find the opportunity that fits them. Now, the converse is true too. My first chief operating officer, he was a company commander in Afghanistan, a platoon leader in Iraq. He'd worked for one of the 4 largest financial institutions, and he was a administrator for a large law firm that he ran their Nashville, Houston, and Austin offices. 2 years into our 3-year contract, he's probably the first employee I ever had a written contract. He says, I guess I need to talk to you. I got the offer to become the CEO of a 100 attorney firm, and I'm taking it. Now, we celebrated that, but here's the reality was I could not give him an opportunity that big, right? Yeah, otherwise,
sure.
I mean, even if he became the CEO of Berry Law, we still weren't as big as the company that he went to.
Right.
And so for me, that's a leadership success story, but it's also, as a leader of Berry Law, my job is to provide people opportunities. Not everybody is going to grow at the rate that we're going to grow. Everybody gets off the train at some point. I'll get off the train. And if I can find somebody to replace me tomorrow who can help the team reach the destination, hey, mission first, people always, I will gladly step aside and do what my dad's done for the last 20 years and get paid and do nothing.
Oh, man.
The American dream, right? The oldest son takes over the business.
Dad, if you're listening, he meant that in a very positive way.
But he's done some great things for the brand and some amazing things to mentor our lawyers. But when I took over the firm, it was a different time because he didn't have systems in place. He was so used to he was a drive time guy here from 4 to 6. He didn't need to market. Everybody heard him on the radio.
Yes, exactly. Right? So I did.
So then we had to go back through and build systems and now as I look at 209 team members as of today, it's just a different organization, and there was a lot of pain along with a lot of failures and a lot of scary moments.
And
I bet.
I absolutely love the scars from the climb. I've never heard that before, but that to me, I mean, think about that. Because I tell people all the time, when you're getting advice, when you're working with somebody, when you're getting a mentor or whatever it is, they have to have been there. I always tell people, when you own a business, and there's points in your life where you're laying awake at 2:00 in the morning going, how in the heck are we going to make payroll? Right?
Yeah.
Until you're there, you have no idea what that feels like. And you have to have those scars. And I love finding out what people's scars are, because how are you going to get me there? Because what was the book? What got you here won't get you there. So you have to make pivots. You have to continue that climb. You have to continue that growth. I absolutely love that.
Yeah. And you have to start in the valley and work your way up to the top of the mountain. You really do. Those are the scars. I mentor some young realtors, which is kind of funny because I owned a flower shop for 38 years. And every once in a while, I'll get one of them that'll go, well, how long have you been a realtor? And I said, well, 4 years, but I've had 64 summers and I owned a business for 38 years. Trust me, what you're going to do, 95% of it is relational and the other part's bookwork. So if you don't get that part right, you're sunk. And it's always, funny when I get that. But I think I had a couple of guys call me one time and they're like, hey, we built this house. We're having trouble selling it. Can you come take a look at it and see what you think? And I'm looking at it thinking, you've got a $1.4 million house here. You didn't put a linen closet in it and you have a washer and dryer that are stacked. Huge problem. So I'm like, did you find this successful when you, well, we've been building in the, 400 to 500 range, but we really wanted to build a luxury home. I go, you really missed the steps from the 7 and the 900,000 and the 1.1 and the 1.4. There's just somebody that is going to pay 1.4 or 2 million for a house are going to look for something way different than down here. So you get that they missed all those steps. So I love hearing that. The scars. I'm going to keep that. I'm going to use that. Can I use that, John?
You can use it. I'm sure I stole it from somebody else. There's nothing new under the sun, right? Everything is
exactly.
You read enough business books. It's all regurgitated. It's just somebody rewrapping something else.
Yeah. I'm really in the arts world, and I'll get artists a lot of times that feel like, what do you think of this? I'm like, oh, it looks really cool. I kind of copied it, and I go, well, let me see the copy. I look at it and go, well, that's different than the copy. But but that's a lot of it's alike. I go, you got to learn to steal like an artist, right? In a way, if you think about it, it's not stealing. I mean, it's still your thing, and that's how you grow.
Yeah.
And I would say this too, the best people that I've worked with are ones willing to share. I was just in Boston last week with a mastermind group of 12 other attorneys, all in different DMAs, all relatively the same size.
Mm-hmm.
We're sharing information from every single vendor we use to revenue and NDAs. Everybody's got and everybody's got to give their information. But I felt like when you have the right group of people and you share, you can get the cheap lesson. Learn from somebody else's scar.
Right.
There's so many businesses out there where people are afraid to share their, don't give away the secret sauce, but share some success, share some things that you're doing, because whatever you share, you're going to get tenfold back.
And share some failures you learn from, right? Because that's how we all learn.
Yeah.
Don't hold those things in. And information's power. Knowledge is power,
Yeah.
And I can remember a lady I spoke to. I had a conference where I spoke out, where she came up and she's like, well, I don't really associate with anybody else that's in my industry because I don't want to give my secrets away. And I said, you don't have any secrets. You have 15 competitors here. They know what you're doing. I mean, get better, get together as a group and get better. You cannot service everybody in this 300,000 population town. There's no way you could.
Yeah.
So,
it's kind of like, it's the old, I knew a guy, he had an employee he was afraid to train. He goes, every time I train them, they take that skill and leave. And I go, yeah, but if you don't train them, they're going to stay. Right. I mean, that's a problem.
Exactly.
I would rather have somebody learn something, do me some good and leave than know nothing and stick around. This segment is brought to us by Integrated Behavioral Health Services, the Lincoln Airport, and the UPS stores. This segment we always call This Needs an Adjustment. And it's brought to us by Ascend Chiropractic. And it's basically something that's happened within your business because you've had so much, exponential growth within your company. There had to be one or several adjustments that you've had to make along the way. Because when you started, you said you're 4 or 5 lawyers or 4 or 5 employees. How many employees do you have now?
209 today.
That's all?
That's it. That's it.
No
oh
problem.
my goodness. How many does it feel like? No, I'm teasing you. I'm just sitting here going
1.7 million. Depends on the day.
It feels like I have 5 because that's how many are on the leadership team.
There you go.
And that's how it should be.
There you go.
Perfect.
Yeah, sometimes I have 10 people and it feels like 30.
It just depends. Yeah.
So what was it? Was there something within as you guys started growing? Because this rocket ship growth, there had to be a lot of bumps along the way. What are some of the things that you've learned that you've had to make changes to?
Yeah, I mean, most recently this year is, we stopped our criminal practice since my father started practicing law. That was one of our verticals.
Really?
And we figured out the amount of different, all of our work now is contingency based. We only get paid if our clients win. But if you're doing an hourly or a flat fee basis for other things, it's a whole different accounting system. It creates a different culture, and scaling is just a lot different. And so we realized that wasn't going to get us where we wanted to go. And so while it's a rich part of our history, we've got some amazing criminal defense wins. And it's, we love supporting and defending the Constitution of the United States, but we can do that in personal injury cases, and we can protect our veterans. And so the thing is, we figured out to get where we wanted to go, maybe someone else could figure out how to scale it better than us, but we couldn't figure it out. And it's okay, we have some other things. Our veterans practice is going really well. Our personal injury practice is going really well. We've got the right leaders in place. Let's invest in what's working. And so we really doubled down on those investments. Now, let me take you back to that chief operating officer who left to become the CEO of a 100 attorney firm. And I let him out of his employment contract. And, when he left, he did say something. He said, look, John, you brought me on because you wanted more law firm governance. You wanted me to build up the HR and the finance functions to become a 9-figure organization. He said, I have done that. You have the same tools that my organization had. Everything that I've learned, you have it. Mm-hmm. And he said, but to get to the next level, I don't have the skills. You need someone with very strong IT skills to systemize the business. You need someone very strong in marketing, and you need someone strong in sales. So as your chief operating officer, I'm not qualified. You need a different strength set to be your second in command. And he was absolutely right. And so, he left, and it's kind of funny because he probably would have got a huge bonus this year had he stayed. But the things that he built, it took years for us to see the effects. And, he left, it's been 2 years, and we are still using all the systems that he left, but everything else we have completely gutted and changed based on us upgrading our leadership team.
So tell me about making that decision, because your criminal side had to be profitable, right?
It was, but it wasn't as profitable. And it culturally, it was different.
Right.
And it was, we have, as we've grown our VA and PI practice, we realized that a lot of the skills were interchangeable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
on the criminal side, in criminal and PI definitely, but if you look at a VA or a PI firm, there's a lot of medical records involved. There's a lot of document management, and there's a lot of predictability. Whereas a criminal case, you could win that any day of the week, right? You might be able to convince the prosecutor to dismiss the case. You might win in a preliminary hearing. You might have a deposition that goes bad for the prosecution. You might have to wait to the jury trial. You might win on an appeal. Whereas, other cases, there's just, you can build in a lot more structure, and you can build, I think, great systems that make your lawyers even better. I think in the criminal system, what I found is it was very hard to systemize, where I could take more off those lawyers' plates so they could focus on the things that make them great. And so what I learned was, when you systemize an organization, you find out what is the highest and best use of your lawyers, and then you let them do that and let them become amazing at that and coach them and help them and make them even better. But I found that it was much easier to be that leader in an area where we could, had a little bit more control over we have a lawyer who's a full-time trainer for our lawyers coming up. And there were things that we just couldn't do on the criminal side. Maybe we could, maybe I just couldn't figure it out. But to be fair, I have a good friend in Wyoming, and she told me about the profit margin of her criminal practice, and she's throughout the state of Wyoming. Her name is Christy Williams. And I was like, oh,
that's unattractive. Right. Yeah, that's a little unattractive. I would think there'd be more unpredictables and unknowns in that as well.
There are in the criminal, yes, absolutely.
I would think so. Yeah. And personal injury, so many people don't get what they deserve. I think the car accident that I was in, I gave up with the insurance company too soon, and probably really should have hired an attorney and fought for more, but you don't know what you don't know, really. And I was just busy with a lot of other stuff. I made a poor decision, but I think I so much money's left on the table that people that get injured need.
Yeah, and they don't realize it until they until they need it. And it seems like a lot at the time, but you have to think through, if this is a permanent injury, how is this going to affect the rest of my life?
Yeah.
And I think of my injuries, from the military, and I've 3 disc replaced. You kind of see the scars here, and it really affected my use of my left arm. And you know what? I would gladly give that for my country. But if someone took that from me,
yeah,
right? I mean, being able to hold your kids, being able to, I'm an athletic person, but not being able to do all the physical activity, to do it for a cause where I believe, anything for my country. But when someone's negligence takes that away from you, and then your family has to deal with it as well. I mean, it's, so yeah, I would agree that, and that's unfortunate because there's a lot of marketing out there that people think that the insurance company is going to take care of you. And just some of them do, but the reality is, that's not the business model, right? Right. And at the end of the day, right, everybody is out there any business is out there to make a profit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it is one of those things where there has to be accountability.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things where people get frustrated is it's like, I don't understand. It's not in the other person's insurance. It's my insurance, right? That's not taking care of me. And I've been paying my premiums.
Right.
20 years and I can't get in there denying me. And so, that's when lawyers have to step in. And, there's, once again, I'm not saying that they're necessarily, I think the system works well because there's accountability, because lawyers can step in.
Right.
But yes, it's one of those things where it's not a problem until it's a problem.
Right.
And then it's affecting the rest of your life. And you're like, wait a minute, like they have insurance, I have insurance. But then insurance has caps. There's all sorts of things that you have to look at. And some people, the sad thing is sometimes if you can't find that insurance to cover it, somebody's been injured, and you know what? They're going to have to pay for it out of pocket. And that's always the saddest thing.
And the thing about injury is it can be 10 years later when you really go, whoa, this was caused by, and I had my come to Jesus moment was when a chiropractor looked at my x-ray and he goes, you were T-boned. And at the time I was like going, no, I had a ribeye last night. He goes, no, you're in a car accident. Were you T-boned? And I go, yeah. And he goes, yeah, so I had whiplash this way instead
sideways,
of forward and back.
Yeah.
And it's showing up in my back now. And I mean, I've had adjustments and it's getting better and I do the exercises, but I think back to releasing the insurance company, I call it that. I mean, I basically said, yeah, we're done, and whatever. And I don't know, we'll see how much more it affects me in my life, but it's interesting how you don't know what you don't know 15 years ago.
Yeah. And a lot of people think the insurance company, they're your buddies. They're going to play nicey nice. They're going to act like your friends. It's a business. They have to manage their expenses like every other business out there. They have to manage their income, their cash flow, everything. Well, and part of that is we need to pay as little as possible going out because it's a business. I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that's the nature of the beast.
Right.
And sometimes you need somebody to step in and go, hold on. This guy.
But let's be fair to the insurance companies. They deal with a lot of fraud as well.
Oh, sure.
So they have to be on the lookout to say, did this really happen? So, I mean, it's one of those things where, it's just it's accountability, and you either embrace it or you don't. And, if you don't like what you look in the mirror, don't blame the mirror.
Yeah.
So, if you're going to be accountable, you got to be accountable. And that's, I think, where lawyers provide a benefit in that area is, sometimes even people who want to do the right thing don't do it. I mean, there are some great insurance adjusters out there who want to do the right thing.
Fraud is so real. I went in to pick up a prescription the other day and they're like, oh, it's going to be $85. I go, last month this was $4. Like, what happened? I have the same insurance. It's great insurance. And they go, but your primary is not paying. I go, what do you mean I only have one insurance company? Well, somehow somebody somewhere got all of my information and opened up a health insurance coverage for me through the Marketplace insurance, which apparently now I have, though I've never had it. And they've taken first position. I'm like, what's going on? So now I'm in the middle making these calls and they send me to their fraud department. Got a letter the other day. Yeah, this is definitely fraud. Well, yeah, it's fraud. I never signed up for anything, but they got my information and decided to use it that way. So it's scary.
It's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed this.
Yeah, it has been.
Yeah.
You're a good guest.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It's been fun.
So this last segment is brought to us by Barry Law.
Nice.
We appreciate your sponsorship of the show, and also the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce and Wyuka Cemetery. So the last segment here, we just kind of give it that final 30,000 foot view. If somebody out there needs some help, where can they find you?
Yeah, barrylaw.com.
Easy enough.
Easiest one, local. That's everything. We also vetinjury.com, ptsdlawyers.com. Any social channel, look on veteran led. You'll be able to see the veteran led materials. You'll be able to find me. I'm on LinkedIn as well. But if you go to barrylaw.com, you'll be able to find about everything you need to know about Barry Law and our services.
And there's been I've seen a couple of your YouTube videos, your podcast series. It's been excellent.
Thank you.
It's been a lot of fun. And I know in next month, sometime in December, we're bringing you on to talk about your book, Veteran Led. Which I got a copy. Well, you opened up an office in Omaha. You were there signing copies, and I got one, and I haven't started reading it yet, but I'm looking forward to that. So I got a month. I got a month to read
there
it.
You
so
go.
I can sound somewhat intelligent
December's
when we talk.
Almost here. Time flies.
I know.
Man, you guys all finding the older you get, how fast time flies.
Oh, it
It's
does.
just like, what the heck?
It really does. So now I know you have the office in Lincoln. I was at your opening in Papillion. I think you're in West Omaha. How many offices do you guys have now?
So right now we have 5 physical offices. Our headquarters is here, still here in Lincoln, and then downtown Omaha, Papillion, West Omaha, and then across the river in Council Bluffs.
Okay. And do you have satellite offices as well? Do you have?
So we have employees throughout the country. A lot of them work remote. We have over 20 team members in Texas. We have 9 lawyers in Washington, D.C. But what we found is after COVID, a lot of team members want to work remote. And VA disability law, there's a lot of record review and brief writing. And most of our clients, as you can imagine, don't want to come to an office.
Right.
If we can talk via Zoom, via email, and we can get it done, we can save them the time. So a lot of it is just we get the documents and we review. We talk to the veteran about the documents, and then we work through the strategy. But a lot of the communication isn't required to be in person anymore.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I'm the same way. I don't want to meet with my lawyers. I don't have time.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, if you're paying a veterans disability law firm to appeal your case, you're paying them to do the work for you. So it saves you the time, because here's the deal. You can get, blank you money, but you never get blank you time.
Right.
You never have enough time.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of veterans come to say, like, I've been dealing with this for 5 years. I don't want to deal with it anymore. I'm either going to quit or are you guys going to take it over for me?
Yeah.
So we want to help.
So now, can you help anybody nationwide?
Yes. So because we are accredited, and basically we can represent veterans in all 50 states. It goes through the federal court system. So under the federal administrative exception, we can represent clients in every state. And so most of our clients are actually not in Nebraska. Now, we've got thousands of veteran clients in Nebraska, but Texas, Florida, the veteran heavy populated states, those are the ones where, a lot of our clients reside. And so if we look at our physical expansion, those will be the next locations. Like I said, we've got 5 locations here in the Midwest, but we want to, where we have our team members and where we have our clients is really where our next physical locations need to be.
Definitely.
Wow. Outstanding. And 200 some employees. That just seems like such exponential growth so quickly.
Yeah, but here's the deal. You just hire the right leaders, right?
That's right.
And you get the right leaders who are on board with an entrepreneurial organization. Do not hire bureaucrats. You got to get somebody who's entrepreneurial and they want to grow. And I would say, look, like, I will provide you an opportunity where you control your own future, so long as you never control mine.
Yeah.
And so I want to give them that opportunity, and the right people will step in and they will grow the org. You'll have a self-multiplying organization because they want to grow it. There's a financial incentive for them to grow it. But when we have a mission like this, where they want to help more veterans and the stories keep coming in, we have hundreds of video testimonials from clients. Now, we've got thousands of Google reviews, but hundreds of video testimonials from veterans who will talk about, hey, this is what, and the reason why why they want to do it. They want other veterans to hear their story. Don't quit. Don't give up. You've earned those benefits, and there is a path forward.
Yeah.
So what are some of the lessons? Like, for example, I used to be a cargo pilot back in the day, and you would think that doesn't translate to business. It translates to business like you wouldn't believe. So many things that I learned in my aviation world, like if an engine goes out, you could sit there and go, woe is me. Why did this happen? What a problem. And guess what? You just lost 2,000 feet of altitude while you're playing the woe is me game. So you learn a lot of lessons in that industry. Military's got to be the same way. What are some of the lessons that you brought from the military to growing your business?
Well, if you lead veteran led, that's what the book is all about. But I would say this, in life, there's a lot of things you cannot control. As a young infantry lieutenant showing up at Fort Hood, Texas, now Fort Cavazos, the only thing I can control is whether I was physically fit, the appearance of my uniform, did I look the part, and how did I carry myself with my attitude? Because your mindset. Because guess what? When you don't know anything, bad things are going to happen. You're going to make mistakes. But if you say, hey, I'm here to learn. And my dad tells a great story when he was a young captain, went to a motor pool, and he was supposed to inspect it. He didn't know how to inspect a motor pool. So he went to the motor chief and he said, hey, chief, tell me 20 deficiencies, and I'll see what I can do to get them fixed. And they sat down, they had coffee, and my dad wrote down the deficiencies. Now, he could have went and screwed around the motor pool for a day and tried to figure out what he was doing, but instead he went to the person in charge and said, how can I help? When you can provide value, you'll get value back.
If you hire people that are driven and then they're given what they need to succeed, that's awesome right there. And I can just tell your culture is great that way, where it's like you don't have a mindset that you can do everything, but you know that you hire properly and those people will do what needs to be done because you give them what they need to succeed. That's always successful in business.
Yeah. And in the military, look, you're going to go on a mission. Guess what? The person who's to your left, your right, and at your six, you rely on them to stay alive.
No
and
kidding.
It's the same way in leadership. The good thing, unlike the military, we get to pick our team.
You're not just giving.
Yeah. But you gotta be able to trust them. And so not just like they're not gonna lie, cheat, or steal, but you have to trust them to be competent and to be confident and to be able to lead. And so, the thing is this, like there's a lot of risk out there that we don't even see every day. But if you have the right leaders, you've got less to worry about.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So barrylaw.com, we've got 1 minute to go. If you need help, whether it's if you've been injured in an accident or if you need help, veterans, if you need help, you need to talk to somebody, you need some assistance, barrylaw.com. We appreciate your service. Thank you for your service. And thanks for coming in and talking to us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah,
so,
it was a joy speaking to you today.
Yeah,
for
good.
sure.
It's good to see you again, Gary. And thank you. Thank you both so much.
Yeah. For all our veterans out there, have a great Veterans Day on Tuesday. We appreciate you. We appreciate your service. And for our Vietnam veterans, welcome home.